Okay, so I noticed that in my last recording I missed out the actual candle generation. So I talked about the candles being generated based on the time frames over here, but I never actually explained the candle generation using the text file and the polarity changing and where it starts. So let's do that. So the first candle should be generated in the middle of the y-axis, and candle should start at the closing price of the previous candle. So if we go to the create new candle method over here, we will see that this line is responsible. So the shifted value, which is generated using our random generation, let's stop that. Using our random generation, that's how we get our opening and closing price. So if I run this, I could have just hard coded the opening price to the closing price of the previous candle on that line there. But when I do that, I notice that all the candles are in the middle, which isn't very useful for a random candle generation. Because the user won't be able to use any tools if the graph just stays in the middle. So here you can see that it starts in the middle and then it generates randomly up and down. So it starts at the top of the green and then at the bottom of the red, which is just as it should. So if I change this to the closing price, you will see that the candles do not move very much. And they all kind of just stay in the middle, which is absolutely useless. If I add on a trend line, if we're using a short tool like this, the wicks are moving, but the line kind of just stays in the middle, which isn't very useful. So if I change this back to temp open, then I will show you the code which generates it in the middle, which is going to be my last candle top, which is just here. So it centers it in the middle because the current position from the top is the last candle top minus the height of the candle divided by 2, so it gets the middle value. And the last candle top is hard coded to 475 on the canvas, which is just in the middle. So that's hard coded. So now the randomly generated value should be read from a text file. So if I go to, why won't you let me click down? The random recorder class, that's just a note for me. So static means I don't need to create objects. I found that on Stack Overflow, which was nice. So use numbers is where I actually store all of the numbers I use inside the text file. This is basically saying if it exists, then clear it using that piece of code, which is on Stack Overflow, which is nice. And that's just creating a new file if it doesn't exist. And then that's a try catch showing if we can't do it, there is an error. Use numbers is the list that I use to get the numbers from the file, and I should have used that. I don't know why. Yeah, no, it's going to be where it was. It is just here. So it's taking it into use numbers list, and then this is the potential random number that the program's going to use. It checks whether the random number's already been used, so it checks whether it's in the use number list, and then if it is, then it generates a new one, and then it records it in the random number file. So that's actually adds the data to the file, and then yeah, so let's show it in action. I think that's covered everything. So if I run the program, I will show you that the use numbers file gets created on the user's workspace, and it should contain the opening and closing prices. So if I open it up, you will see that it's just been updated now at 310. So let's open it, and you'll see all of the different opening and closing prices. And as you scroll down, you'll see that these actually match the ones down here because they're such small numbers, as you can see. Perfect. So that shows that that works, which is good. And then the last thing I want to show was that the polarity of the candles actually reverses when the candles are the top of the bounds, which is why it stays within the bounds of the graph. So if I just show you what I mean, and then I will show you the code for it. So hopefully we'll get a nice volatile graph which will soon go off the bounds. So by the bounds I mean this one up here and this one down here, because when it goes over to the left side it just gets removed anyways. Okay, here we go. So you see that the wick passed the bounds of the graph, so the next one was a green one. And you should be able to see this better if it goes down again. Yeah, so it's past the graph and it turns green, past the graph, turns green, past the graph, turns green. And it will constantly do that, and it does the exact same here. So if it passes the graph up there, then it will go red to push it down, and we'll go up. So the code responsible for that is in the graph candle method. If I pull that up, where are we looking? We are looking just here. So that's getting the top of the candle, this gets the top of the peak wick, that gets the bottom of the lowest wick. So those are just our numbers so that we can calculate it, getting the maximum and the minimum value. And then here I've got the min y is the highest coordinate of all of those to calculate where the top y coordinate is to check whether it goes above the graph. I've used min y instead of max y because it's like the smallest number in terms of the canvas coordinate, because it starts from the top. So when we're working down, the smallest number is actually the highest one, which is why I've gone for min y. It just made sense to me to use it that way. I put a little reminder so I don't forget. And then the margin, I've just used that so it can go a tiny bit over but not too far. So here's the actual code. So it's saying if the highest point of the candle, which is min y, which we've generated there, if it goes closer to the top of the canvas, then the top boundary plus the margin, so the top boundary is the top of the graph plus the margin, so it's got a little bit of room for error, then we reverse the next candle, and it's saying the exact same there. If it goes closer to the bottom, then we reverse it. And that's pretty much it. That's how the candles are reversed. Nice and quick. Sorry I didn't include it in the last one. Thank you for watching.